Hey everyone, it's Emily from Life So Savory, and today we're going to be sewing a swimsuit for my daughter. This is the girls' classic swimsuit pattern, and I call it classic because it can be made just as a regular classic swimsuit with great coverage. So I made this to have good coverage on the top and good coverage, especially on the backside, because when you're swimming, you don't want to have to deal with that creeping up where it's not supposed to. So a classic swimsuit with great coverage. However, I have included in the pattern so many ideas for super fun hacks, 2 pieces, ruffles, tie backs, all those things you could create with just this one swimsuit. So I've included the pattern link in the description of this video if you are interested in purchasing it. And I'm going to sew up just the classic regular version for you today. So I was threading my sewing machine with pink, which is going to be the color of the suit. And then I had to run and get the bread out. So now I'm back and finishing getting this machine ready. So I was going to change the thread and change the needle. Oh, I guess I just threaded that one because I want to make sure that I have a needle that's going to play nice with the swim fabric. So I'm looking for a stretch needle, which I think there's just a universal one in there. So I'll take that one out, see what's in here. Hi, Debbie. Yeah, I just have a universal needle in here. So we're going to put this one away. I feel like, oh, my needles got a little mixed up. My daughter was sewing the other day, and I think, all right, so these are just the hand sewing needles, and these are the regular needles. When I have a needle that I've already used, I usually try to put it on the other side so that I know these are new needles, and this is not a new needle, but I can still use it for most projects. But if I need to make sure that it's a brand new sharp needle, I won't grab that one. Okay, so you can see I have one over here on the swim or the stretch. All right, so we have light color thread. I actually re-threaded my serger as well. And many of you may have already sewed up this swim pattern. It is not new, but I am, of course, thinking spring break just around the corner. It's time for some new swimsuits. And, oh, that's a good idea, the upside down. It's time for sewing swimsuits. So a couple weeks ago, I did a sew along, and I sewed the board shorts for my son. Well, today we are going to sew up the girls' classic swimsuit, and I'm going to show you how easy it is. Okay, so you don't have to be afraid of sewing with swim. You do need 1/4 inch elastic, and I use this elastic in all the parts of this. So the neckline, the arms, and the legs. Some swimsuit patterns will call for thicker elastic or thinner elastic, depending on where you're putting it. I use the same in all. And then we have cut a front on the fold. This is a size 7 width, size 10, 12 length. Okay. Rose told me last night that I always make her swimsuits too tight. So we're trying to make this one. She was between the 8 and the 10 size on the length. And normally I probably would size down to make sure it's like really snug fitting. But I'm trying to be aware that she's asked me to give her a little more room. And then hopefully actually it will last all summer rather than just being outgrown by the time summer even comes around. Okay, so I've tried to leave this open to have for a workspace. I'm going to be sewing this on the serger and on the regular sewing machine. I love using the triple zigzag stitch for finishing all the elastic, and I'll show you about that as well as some tips for sewing elastic when we get to it. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to sew the main pieces together using the serger. So I'm going to put both the lining and the main fabric together and sew it as one piece. Okay, so I'm going to start with the shoulder seams, and that's what I'm matching up here. And then, so that's the back. It has a scoop neck. And then here's the front with a higher neck. Remember I said good coverage. And we're going to put right sides together at the shoulder seams. Hi, Emily. I don't know. In Nevada, did you guys have weird weather? We have crazy weather supposed to be coming in tonight, like the storm of the year, maybe like 18 inches. So, of course, everyone is a little on edge here wondering, will it actually come? Sometimes they predict these huge things and then wah, wah, we're all totally disappointed. So I'm trying not to get my hopes up. We haven't had a snow day yet this year, so maybe tomorrow's the day. But I don't know anyone else who's out here in the mid to western part of the US, what you're seeing or predicting. All right, so I've got the shoulders pinned together, and then I'm also right now doing the crotch. Oh, yeah. Those some interesting. Our snow always melts fast here. It's supposed to be in the 60s again by next week, so I'm not overly worried. All right, so we have the crotch seam and the shoulder seams, and then after I sew those, I'm going to pin and sew the side seams. So I'm going to bring this camera over closer so that we can get a good look at the serger for these steps, and then I'll move it back because the rest will be, well, no, the rest won't be on there. We'll see. Okay, so focus on the serger, not on my face. And we're going to sew the seams I just pinned. Okay, so a 3/8 seam allowance is included on this pattern, which means with the serger, you're just going to trim off a very narrow bit, and then you want to open it up and make sure that you don't see your needles too much. You have good sewing there. All right. So now I'm going to do the same thing with the shoulder seams. I'm sewing 4 layers, but I'm just treating it as 2 because I'm just including the liner. So I don't always like to line the whole thing, but if I'm not making it a 2-piece, if I'm making a 1-piece, you can't really just line the bottom. So I'm going ahead and lining the whole thing just because it's a 1-piece suit. So this is swim fabric and swim lining. The swim lining I know is from Raspberry Creek Fabrics. I'm not 100% sure where the swim fabric is. I order all my swim fabric from either Raspberry Creek or knitfabric.com. Depends on what I'm looking for at what time. So, and no particular reason. The prints, sometimes they have different prints. So both those are my go-to fabric places for swim knit or swim knit, and it's great quality and lasts a long, long time. So most suits we outgrow before the fabric were to give out, which I think is a huge testimony of how great the swim fabric is. And yes, Rose is of the age where we do need to line it. So I always feel like it makes the swimsuit feel a little bit bulkier, but in the end, totally worth it. And you know, we're going to have a great suit. Okay, so there's one side seam. Stretch and sew and narrow zigzag. I know my mom actually used to sew all of our swimsuits just with cotton lycra. So you know when you get that wet, it's like heavy and soggy. But she did cotton lycra and I don't even know if they made swim fabric like this. Like they just made stretch fabric. I don't know if it was so easy to buy like this great. Now we can buy such great swim fabric. And she did a zigzag on everything. My gymnastics leotards. Yep, she made all of it with a zigzag. And actually, I sewed for years and years without a serger. Even when my boys were little, I didn't have one. When I got back into sewing after leaving teaching, when I was at home with the boys, I sewed them a lot of t-shirts and knitwear before I was like, yeah, I'm really going to be sewing a lot. I need a serger. All right. So now it actually looks like a swimsuit, only just not. I feel like this looks big, but I know Rose is growing. So, and I don't want to make it too small because like I said, she has told me so many times, Mom, I don't want to wear it. It's too tight. And she doesn't like it when it's like too tight around her arms or around her legs. So not too tight today. All right. So the next step, and there is an elastic cutting guide in the tutorial. However, I think the absolute best thing to do is to either measure the opening or measure your actual kid. And my kid isn't here. So we're going to measure the openings and do a little quick math and cut some elastic. Okay. So I'm going to measure around the leg opening. We just have to do the one leg, one arm, and the neck. So we're going to cut 3 different lengths of elastic. All right. So 17.5 inches is the width around. So 10% of that would be 1.7 inches off. So that would be just under 16 inches. So we're going to cut for the leg openings, the elastic just under 16 inches, 15 3/4 maybe. It's not an exact science because obviously you can cut it, depending on how tight you want, you can cut it a little tighter or cut it a little looser, but I don't want it loose, okay? And I don't want it too tight. So we're gonna go with that. All right, so I'm gonna clip these here by the leg. So we know that is the leg. All right, so the next thing we need to do is the arm. And again, I talked about good coverage. So this arm is not too loose because we want to make sure that we don't have any side exposed. And I want my daughter to feel fully confident playing and running around in this swimsuit and not worried about anything showing or be able to wear the swimsuit for play if it's in between swimming. Okay, so that was 15 inches. So 1.5 inches is 10%. So we're going to cut it 13.5 inches. The cat is like meowing over here. I don't know what he wants. What? Probably wants to go out. He's obsessed with going out, but I'm not letting him out right now. Oh, hey. Don't rub yourself on the tripod. What? All right, and then one last one. We're going to measure the neck opening. Then we're going to start sewing. So I'm going to sew all this elastic onto the suit first with my serger, and then I'm going to top stitch it down using my regular sewing machine, which is why we've got that all ready to go. All right, so I'm measuring around the neckline. Any weird noises you hear in the background is the cat who's like freaking out and running around the house. I don't know what he is thinking or wanting. Okay, so 31.5. So let's just take an even 3 inches off. So we'll make it 27 and a tiny bit more. Okay. You can get out your calculators. This is me doing non-exact math and hopefully not cutting my, how many of you have cut through I've totally cut through a measuring tape before. All right, so now I'm going to sew all of these elastics into a circle, okay? Hi, Carrie in the UK. What time is it there? It's got to be, is it late in the evening? I can't even do my conversion. All right, so I'm sewing these in a circle. Because it's 1/4 inch elastic, it's pretty narrow. I'm actually going to sew it the long way together, overlapping, not side to side. And we're going to sew over this 2 more times. So it doesn't really even have to be like super specifically perfect together. It just has to be held together because we're going to sew it on with the serger, and then I'm going to go over and top stitch it. So we've got lots of elastic sewing coming up. So if you've ever wondered about sewing elastic on a swimsuit, you're going to see it in detail right now. Many, many, many times. Oh, that's a good time to be watching. Okay, so like I said, I'm tacking all of these together into a circle. Okay, and it doesn't have to be super specific. I'm going to clip these back on the underarm so that I remember that's the underarm. It's pretty easy to know which one is the neckband. You could also just note in your head, okay, the leg opening is bigger than the arm opening. And so the slightly bigger circles are the legs and the slightly smaller circles are the arms. And the big circle is the neck, but I can be a little more organized than that. Okay, and I did put in a stretch needle. I'm just using regular cotton thread and regular elastic. So they do sell swim elastic. I do not use it, and I have never had issues. Okay, and we swim a lot. We have a hot tub, so we swim year round. We go to my parents in the summer. She has a pool. So the kids are swimming so much. Oh, I just see you have a question about that. I can't, this isn't even noted, but I think it's a knit elastic. I think it's a knit elastic. Can you see? I don't know if I can see it. I'll show you up close. Or a braided elastic, actually, now that I think about it. It's just a 1/4 inch elastic, and I don't use anything special. So I have not had the elastic wear out. We outgrow it. Other things happen long before the elastic, or even the swim fabric for that matter, would be to wear out. So I have not done anything too special. All right, next, we're going to sew the elastic into the leg opening. So, you know, I'm obsessed with clips. Sometimes the clips aren't strong enough to hold it in place, especially if you have to do a big stretch. So I like to use the clips, but just note if it's slipping and sliding around and they're not holding it in place, because you really do need it kind of held here while we're sewing, then you might need to use a pin. The horror of using a pin. All right, so I'm going to serge this elastic in. I'm going to sew on the edge of the fabric. I'm going to not cut the elastic. And I'm going to try and catch in my seam the elastic, the lining, and the swim fabric. Okay, so those are the 3 things I'm trying to do. And then we'll have a nice finished edge of the swimsuit. of course, if you do not have a serger, you absolutely can still sew swim. You just need to sew with I would say a wide zigzag. And sew your elastic in place just like this. The steps are the same, even if you're not using the serger. Okay, so I'm using the serger, so this is my first step. But if you're not, that's fine. You just go ahead and zigzag in for the first step. All right, so let's show you up close. There's the inside of the leg. Give it a minute, see if it will focus. There's the inside of the leg, and there's the outside. Okay, we're going to flip this in and top stitch next. But for now, we have that elastic right sewed into the seam. All right. Yes, I always love new places to buy swim fabric. So thank you, Mary. That is fabulous. And you can see I'm first sort of having, that is actually the strangest word when you look at it written, having with an L. The fabric, then quartering it and pinning it or clipping it. And this is when an extra hand would, of course, come in handy to be able to stretch, pin, and sew it. But we weren't made with 3 hands, so I have to make do. And once the needles are in the elastic, then you can sort of stretch and pull it and it won't slide. Okay, always stop with your needles down because that makes it real easy to then stretch along. And sew it in. So it's a bit monotonous. You're going to watch me do this for all the openings. However, uh-oh, do we have a twist in this elastic? No. Oh goodness, I got worried for a second that somehow I'd sewed it twisted. You want to make sure that you do trim off just a tiny bit of elastic or fabric so that the elastic will then be fully enclosed when we flip it over. Okay, so if the elastic is sticking off, when I flip it over, I'm still going to see the elastic. But right now, when I flip it over, I'm only going to see fabric on there. Okay, so I want to make sure that I'm fully flipped it over. Okay, arms next. And I'm just, again, lining up my 2 layers with the as one. I like to put the place where I sewed the elastic together next to one of the seams, not on one of the seams because then it's too thick, but next to it sort of just gives me a place to put it. And I usually do go with the underarm. If you find that cutting your elastic 90% is too loose, like if you really need it tightened, then I would go 15% and try that. Again, I'm trying not to make these too tight because when I was measuring Rose last night to make this, she said, don't make it too tight. You always make them too tight. And of course, I'd like this swimsuit to last all summer. She has some 2-piece suits from last year that still fit. Because of course, 2-piece is easier to last because you can just grow taller. But her 1-piece suits are too small. So I'm trying to be very aware of not making this one too tight. Again, make sure the serger blade does not cut the elastic. Okay, we don't want to compromise the integrity of the elastic. We're just trimming a tiny bit of fabric. I'm cutting off these serger tails so that I don't have those chunks in there when I'm sewing. All right, so I'm going to line up that stretch it across to the other half. So then I at least have it halved. And then start sewing it in. So you can see that obviously it's a little bit time consuming, but obviously the more you do this, the more comfortable you'll be. If you're having trouble keeping the lining and the swim lined up, you could go ahead and baste on the lining fabric. I'm just trying to avoid more bulk in the seams, and so anytime I cannot, baste it or not sew an extra seam on there, I feel like it's going to help me keep the seams from getting too bulky. So that's what we're trying to do here. All right, one arm and no arms. Actually, just there's the bottom, there's the armholes, just the front and back. Okay, so for this one, because it's such a big circle to sew, I'm going to go ahead and mark the middle of the front and the middle of the back. Of course, it's not even because the back is so much scoopier than the front. Then I'm going to take one of my markings will just be where I sewed it, and then the other one is going to be the bottom, and I'm going to match this on the front, and I'm going to put this zigzag piece that we sewed on the back. Okay, so I'm going to find the front of the suit. I'm going to clip in that. Then we're going to take this around to the back of the suit. Clip this in. This pattern includes variations for making it into a two-piece. Rose's favorite outfit, actually swim right now, is the sand and surf board shorts made in beautiful board short fabric that she likes. And then this just as a top. So you can make it longer like a tankini. You can make it shorter like a bikini. But again, it has great coverage on the top. So it ends up looking really, really fabulous and perfect for playing around on the beach or wherever you want. So I feel like, did it slide? So I feel like this side is it's sliding through. Ooh, naughty, naughty. All right, this one's too big. I'm going to have to get out the pins because it's just sliding around and not staying where it's supposed to. All right, so again, I'm going to mark the middle of the elastic, and I'm going to mark the middle of the front of the swimsuit and the middle of the back of the swimsuit. All right, let's try this again. And we're going to pin it in because it was just sliding through the clips, and that's not going to work to keep it in place. I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, you can make it you can cut it in half. There's a cut line if you want to cut it and put in a ruffle. I did that more when Rose was younger. So cute. I've got directions for you to make it a tie back, which is really cute. You make it a low cut back and then put a tie across the back. I think I did one of those for last spring break. It was so cute, but it was a one piece and now it's too tight. So learned my lesson on that. This is where I either want to use my mouth or grow a third hand. Trying to put all my pins going the same direction. So when I'm sewing, I can just take them out. I don't, is it twisted? Where's the twist? Straight, straight. Do you have a twist in the elastic? Oh my goodness. All right, so we're gonna do this again because I feel like the elastic is twisted. I need to check it out. It's not pinning on right. But it's not twisted. What in the world? My goodness. Okay, let's do it again and see where I went wrong. This time I can now see the pin marks, so I know where to put it in the back. And see if we can see the pin marks in the front. Not so much. Okay. Nothing like watching me pin the same thing 3 times in a row. I feel like I should have something more exciting to talk about. Yeah, 3rd time's a charm. That's right. We are going to get this. I don't know what I did wrong, but this is going to pin in and it's not going to be twisted and it's going to go perfect. Okay, one side down to the last. Okay, now it's not twisted. That was so weird. I even like double checked it. I don't know. Okay, we are going to start sewing this into the neck. This one is the hardest because it's just long and we're stretching it around uneven curves, right? It's not the front and the back are not the same, so we can't just quarter it. I do like the ruffle version of this, but I don't think Rose likes the ruffle version. Sorry, this is the camera wants to focus more on me than the serger. But we'll be headed back to the sewing machine and we'll give you a close up of that. Here, okay. I don't have a new serger, Lynn. I mean, maybe a year ago. Nothing super recent. All right. I'm going to hopefully have you look over my shoulder here. Okay, so this one it's like a big zigzag and it breaks it up in the middle and it's called a triple zigzag. At least that's what I call it. I don't know if that's its super official name, but that's what I love to use for this. So we're going to fold over. Okay, you're going to fold over the elastic. Not too much more than the elastic, maybe slightly more. So no more than 3/8 inch on this 1/4 inch elastic. And I'm just going to put a few clips to sort of hold it in place so I don't have to be messing with that while we're sewing. But what you want to do is you want to sew not on the outside edge, you want to sew on the inside edge, so that will keep the elastic from flipping up. So if you've ever had that problem, you just need to scoot your zigzagging or your top stitching a little bit in closer to the suit. So I want to actually catch that inside edge and it doesn't matter if I catch the outside edge. So I really want to be focused on the inside edge of this zigzag and where that is hitting on the suit. So I have pink on the top, so I'm going to stitch on the top, and I also am stretching the elastic just slightly because we don't want any puckers. So you want to stretch it until it's flat. I'll show you up close when this one is finished. And then you can see I'm just stretching the fabric just slightly as I'm sewing. Keep the fabric flat and stitching all the way around the leg opening. And I'm not stitching right on the edge of the folded edge of the fabric. I'm stitching what I can feel is over the edge of the elastic, fully enclosing that edge. And that will keep the elastic from flipping up. I just think this looks so nice. I've done it on my cover stitch machine, but I actually think this triple zigzag looks the nicest. So I don't know, some of you may disagree with me, but that's my non-professional opinion. All right, so let's see if this will focus here. Okay, so there's what the outside of the leg looks like. Doesn't that just look so perfect? But you can see that I don't know, there's a little bit of gap. I didn't sew on there. I just mostly sewed there. And then on the inside, there's what it looks like. Okay, so I caught the fold and then I actually went a little bit down onto the main swimsuit, but that will keep this laying nicely and not tempted to flip up. Okay, so looks just like any suit you purchase in the store. There's one of my finished leg openings. Doesn't it look so nice? All right. Yeah, and I had done the wide zigzag, just like a regular wide zigzag for a while, but the triple stitch, because it sort of breaks up the stitch, I think adds a whole other little dimension and is my favorite. So if your machine, which even simpler machines, you don't have to have a fancy machine to have the triple stitch, honestly. That's my favorite for top stitching, swim, and gymnastics. I'm using these fingers to sort of feel where the edge of the elastic is to make sure I'm sewing over it. But once you find, okay, so the edge of the presser foot must be there. Once you find it, the elastic is a consistent width. So your sewing can be at a consistent width. You shouldn't have to keep adjusting where you're sewing. Seam the elastic once it's inserted. So I have, but I'm not sure if that only works with the swim elastic. That's the plasticky kind. I don't know. Has anyone had luck with that, just doing regular braided elastic? It's sort of like the idea of shirring, right? Where you sew it in and then you steam it and it gathers right up. But that's a good idea. We run a steamer over this when I'm done and shrink it back. I don't feel like it gets too stretched out. You can see my seams don't look stretched out. They just look like they're going to lay nicely. But sometimes if it does feel stretched out, you absolutely can give it a little steam in there. Okay. So we're going to go around the back. And I'm not putting a ton of clips, but this just helps me to not have to be constantly adjusting when I'm sewing. I did see that I missed a section here of swim fabric. So I didn't get all my layers lined up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zigzag it to the elastic so that when I fold it, it stays in place. Not going to put it back into the serger, but that should make it lay nicely. Oh goodness, here's another section. Apparently, I didn't do a very good job on the back part of this swimsuit. Probably because I was so stressed out about how many times it had to repin the thing. All right, let's sew this around. If you need to, stretch it just slightly to keep the puckers out. Don't overstretch it, because that's when you really will end up with stretched out elastic, and stretched out elastic is never a good look on a swimsuit, especially when it's brand new. I'm just looking out here, and my lilac bush has buds on it out my window. But like I said, we're supposed to get like 16 inches of snow. So hibernate some more, little lilac bush. It's going to be a couple wintry days here before you can go back to being spring. It's felt like spring the last few days. It's been 60 and sunny, but I feel like we always get a lot of snow here in March, so I can't get too excited. And of course, my tulips are out. No flowers, but the stems are, oh. What did I just do? That's what I get for talking and sewing. I like sewed it inside here, stitched it right in. What kind of craziness is that? Okay, good times. Let's rethread. And then find where I made the little boo-boo and start over. Thankfully, it's not on the front, so that will be good. Because just even the starting and stopping and back stitching, we don't want that extra on the front of the suit. So just like on the leg, I started and stopped at the undermost part to avoid seeing any of that back stitching or overlap. On the neckline, I started and stopped on the back of the suit. And then the arms, I will start and stop on the under arm of the suit. Okay, I think I'm only going to put 2 because it's just smaller for that, for the under the arm. So we'll sort of fold as we go. All right, 2 arms and we are finished, and I can show you the finished look. And then hopefully tonight, Rose can try this on, and it will be to her liking. If it's too big, of course, she can always grow into it, but I am hoping that she'll be able to wear it now as well. But not so tight that she can't wear it later in the season as well. All right, one more underarm. Clip, clip. I always my goodness, it's looking so, so cute. So cute. All right, last one. I think I'm just going to actually sew this. Those clips kind of got in the way. I'll just make sure I stop and stretch and sew it every few inches. The top of the shoulder always seems like it's a lot of, by the time you fold it over both sides and sewn the seam at the top, it always seems like there's quite a bit there, but it works out and the elastic won't touch or overlap. All right. All finished. Let's see if we can, what is going on? Okay. Come back here. Look at how cute it is. All right. So on this suit, the low back is the back side, or the lower is the back. The higher is the front. Good coverage under the arms. Should be good coverage on the back side. And a perfect play suit that hopefully fits her well. So if it does, I will take a picture and, well, when she wears it, I probably won't take a picture in her house, but get it going. So yep, super excited, looks cute. And hopefully Rose will be excited when she comes home. So I didn't sew last week because I was subbing, and next week is still a question mark for me on my calendar, but you know that it won't be too long before I'm back sewing with you on Wednesdays and making something fun and adorable. So thank you for joining me. Again, the link to this pattern and all of the pattern hacks to make ruffles, two pieces, tie backs, all the cute stuff is color blocking is in the link that's in the description of this video. So check it out now and we'll take it then. I know. I actually just sewed a tank dress for Rose and I put a black Sharpie X on the back because it was a little bit hard to tell the front and the back. So do what you need to do, keep it simple and make it fun. So thank you for joining me. See you next time.